It was a balmy Saturday evening. I was in my backyard, surrounded by my family, on the ground, looking at the sky, wasted, drunk, blind drunk. And that was because the universe had let me down in a spectacular way. So 12 years earlier, my husband and I bought our dream house, and it was marketed as entertainer's dream. It had a pool, it had a billiard room, it even had a cellar. And at the time I had 3 stepchildren and 1 of my own, and there was a space for everyone. I loved hosting parties, I loved having people over. I was carrying on the tradition of my parents, who were also great entertainers. There was nothing that I loved more than that. And this house that I had a love affair with, 2 years later, I loved it even more because I formed my own business, a hypnotherapy business. And it was perfect for the hypnotherapy business. It was a corner block, and so this street here is Harold Street, and that was the personal entrance. This street here was Lindsay Street, which I could use as the business entrance. So it ended up being the perfect home. And I had converted the courtyard into a Zen garden. And so basically, my clients would walk through the Zen garden, past the water feature, into the waiting room, and I had erected soundproof walls, so I had 4 consulting rooms. And it was just beautiful. It was a beautiful space. Our clients loved it. I loved it. Everybody loved it. Over the years, my love affair with my husband started to come to an end. And at the same time, my love affair with the house also started to come to an end. And as my relationship with my husband broke down, the house started breaking down. The roof was leaking, the paint was peeling, the carpet was worn, the electrics were exploding, the pipes were bursting, and the pool pump had completely burnt out. And at this stage, I was solely responsible for this house. And it was becoming so stressful, so time-consuming. Every time I would go away, on the way back home, I would start to have heart palpitations, like, oh my God, I'm going to go back into this big house. What's next? What's going to happen next? I was just forking out money, trying to fix everything. I was scared about putting it up for sale because where else could I find a space like this? It was just perfect, and I had saved hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years in rent. But I decided that I couldn't handle this stress anymore, that me and the house needed to break up. And so I called upon the universe. And I said, universe, give me the best agent you can give me. And suddenly I started hearing from different people that I needed to get onto this new real estate agent who was doing amazing results. He was on the TV. His name was Zerb, not his real name. And I decided, well, everything's pointing towards this particular person. I'm going to bring him in. So he came. He arrived with his yellow Lamborghini. He was wearing a very, very, very tight suit. He was in his late 20s, no socks, of course. And his partner, or his off-sider, Claudia, she looked like she was coming out of a Selling Sunset scene. She was wearing 6-inch Louboutin pumps, very, very tight skirt, and of course, a very low-cut top. And they came into the house and they said, we've got this, no problem. All you need to do is paint the house, get rid of all your furniture and bring in new furniture, update the bathrooms, update the pool area, and make sure that the house is open for inspection 3 times a week for 8 weeks. So it was like, oh my God, this is going to be so expensive. I had just spent all the money I had to buy off my husband, and now I had to spend more money. Where was I going to get this from? And I had to close down the business 3 times a week for 8 weeks. But he said, it's going to be worth it. You're going to get it back, plus so much more. And so I did it. I did everything that he told me to do. And by this stage, the plan was that my son, who was 27 at the time, the plan was that he was going to move out into his own one-bedroom apartment, and I was going to move to Adelaide with my new partner. So it was going to be new beginnings for all of us. And the auction day came, and I had a coffee van in the street, of course, so that as many people would gather around as possible to make it look even busier than it actually was. And it was a beautiful sunny day. The street was actually full of people. I put the garage door up, not knowing that Zerb's Lamborghini was on the other side. And as the garage door went up, it scratched the car as it went up. And I was thinking, okay, I wonder if this day is not going to turn out the way that I thought it would. And the auction started. I had all my family there, my extended family, because that's what we did for each other at auctions. We were there to celebrate afterwards. There was champagne in the fridge. There was one bid, and that bid was well under market value. The auction was over in 2 minutes. I was furious. I was furious, first of all, with myself because I hadn't listened to my son. My son always has the best advice. He's an accountant, and so he knows these things. He said to me, "Mum, don't go with Zerb. Go with a local agent." "Why are you going with Zerb for?" I said, "Oh, the universe told me that I need to go with Zerb. That's why I'm going with Zerb." And I was furious at Zerb because he made all these promises. I had spent all this money. I was humiliated in front of my family. My dad walked up to me and he said what he always says whenever there's a challenge. "Κάθε εμπόδιο για καλό." That literally translates to every obstacle for good. And I'm like, how could this be good? I haven't got any more money, I haven't got a buyer, and now I don't even have furniture because I got rid of it. How could this be good? I'm in a worse position 3 months later than I was 3 months earlier, plus I was stressed out with all the events that occurred. So that night, instead of celebrating with champagne, I ended up being blind on my ass in my own backyard because I was done. I was done. I didn't know what else there was to do. Very shortly after, COVID hit. Had I sold that house, my son, who is my everything, would have moved into his one-bedroom apartment alone. He was already at that point suffering issues with loneliness. He was an introvert. He was not an extrovert. Being alone in Melbourne during the world's longest and most harsh lockdown would have been a terrible way for him to enter the world. Thank God the universe sent me Zerb. Thank God I didn't sell that house. Κάθε εμπόδιο για καλό. Every obstacle for good. Later on that year, my dad got sick. My dad was my first love. I adored him. I cherished him. I was the youngest of 5. I was the baby. And he adored me and he cherished me. He would introduce me as my kangaroo because I was the only one born in Australia. The rest were born in Cyprus. And I always had the sense with my dad that it was a sacred moment. Every time I was with my dad, it was like, oh, I can't get enough of this man. If we were at a party or at a dinner, you'd always find me next to my dad because I could not leave his side. He was strong, he was compassionate, he was a poet, he was loving, he was affectionate. The reason that I could love so big was because of him. I adored him. On the Wednesday before he went into hospital, none of us knew that he was going to hospital, but he said to me, I really want to go and just feel water on my skin. He was 90 years old then. I just want to feel like a spa or a swimming pool or something. I said, Dad, we're doing it. And I blocked out that day and I did it. On the morning when I rang him up, he said to me, it's too cold, I don't want to do it this week, let's do it next week. And something told me, no, we've got to go today. And we went, and I had the most incredible hours swimming with my dad in the pool. On that Sunday, he went into hospital and he never came out again. They put him into the palliative care of the Peter Mac Hospital in Melbourne. And the moment they put him into the palliative care unit, I went in with him. I wasn't leaving him, not for one bloody minute. Had I sold that house, I would have been in Adelaide. The borders were locked. During that period of time that I was permitted in the hospital, it was the tiniest period of time that we had lifted restrictions in Melbourne. We had restrictions before and restrictions afterwards. Had that not happened in that moment, nobody would have visited Dad. But as it was, I set up my bed in there. I had my own bed in his room. Peter Mac even had an office for me down the corridor for my important business meetings at the time. One night, as I was kind of sleeping, every single night was like a fitful kind of, what's Dad doing? Is he awake? What's happening? And this particular night, something told me to open my eyes, and I look at my dad, and he's sitting straight up in his bed, just looking straight ahead. And I said to him, Daddy, are you not sleeping tonight? He said, it's almost like he was just contemplating his whole life. And I said to him, well, if you're not sleeping, I'm not sleeping. So I pulled the chair next to his bed and I held his hand. And by that stage, it all happened very quickly. The rest of his body didn't actually have any strength, but the strength in his left hand, as he held mine, was almost crushing my hand. And we held our hands together all through the night. And it was the most sacred, precious time that I ever spent with this love. On the 1st of May, 2021, my father passed. At the time that he passed, his soul chose that his 5 children were around him when he passed. But interestingly, all the in-laws had all fallen asleep at that time and they weren't around, but his 5 children had surrounded him. This is his signature on my wrist. Κάθε εμπόδιο για καλό. Every obstacle for good. Thank God I didn't sell that house. Thank God the universe sent me Zerb. Because when I was in it, I couldn't understand. The universe sent him to me. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? I tell you why. Because the 2 most important people in my life are my son and my dad. And my son wouldn't have been with me, and my dad wouldn't have been with me in his final year. I would be traumatised right now if I hadn't spent that precious time with him. That's why. But the little us can't see that far ahead because we don't know the whole story. We don't know the whole movie. We just know that little bit. Our human knows this much and thinks that it knows everything. So my invitation to every single one of you here, every single one of you, is that if you're going through a challenging time with your loved ones, with your work, with your children, with your parents, with your grandparents, with whoever, κάθε εμπόδιο για καλό. Every obstacle for good. You don't know why. You can't possibly know why. How could I have possibly predicted COVID? Who predicted that? And yet here we are. I had a magical year with my son at home and with my father. And by the way, about 18 to 2 years after that, I got a local agent who knew the area, who knew the buyers, and the magical thing about it was I sold the house not for greater than market value, but for exactly market value. The family paid exactly what it was worth. I received exactly what it was worth. And that gave me so much peace to know I did not get above market value. I got market value because that was the most fair thing that could possibly happen. Kate imbodio yagalo.